What's that? Hey, can you turn the red button on?
Yeah, I'll give you a brief introduction. Okay. Yeah. You guys ready? Yep. Testing. All righty. Welcome to the last speaker session of the day. This session will be eligible for pesticide credits at the end, so make sure to stick around if that's what you're looking for. To start things off, we're going to be learning about the development of pesticide residue decline curves for blueberries to beat MRLs and emerging pest issues by Alan Schreiber and Cassie Kitchfors. Take it away, guys.
I'm actually Camille Holiday with Synergistic Pesticide Lab. That's okay. No worries. So this is
We got feedback up here. Yes.
test. Still feedback.
It's almost like the laptop has its mic.
All right. Still feedback. Test, test. Does that work?
Tom Walters, can you hear the microphone?
Hi, Tom. Can you hear me? All right. All right. I think we're in business here. All right. So we're here to present the data for the 3-year project we did looking at pesticide decline as it relates to maximum residue levels. So first we need to start off with a disclaimer. This is the final data set, but this should be just taken with a grain of salt. It is just a guide. Some of these products that we're going to present data for are not even registered for use yet, and we'll try to identify those as we go. There are no guarantees that the listed products will be effective, and there are many variables to consider. And so again, this is just a guide. Even if you use these products as we indicate, does not mean that you won't exceed the MRLs for a selected market. With that said, let's dive into cover the field. So we had 6 locations. The first year in 2020, we just had locations in Oregon, Washington, and Michigan. Oh, sounds like they're working on it in the back. You can see that up front. Okay. Should I pause here or? Okay.
Oh,
Okay, take 5. I'm not sure where we're at, but all right. So to cover the field locations, in 2020, see, we just focused on Oregon, Washington, and Michigan. In 2021, we were able to add a couple sites in California. And this past year, we had 5 locations, including the California Valley. And so the application types included the air blast and over-the-road sprayers. Samples were taken the day of application once they were dried, and then at 1, 3, 5, 7, 14, and 21 days following the application. There were 4 replicates taken at each day after treatment, and all samples were frozen immediately and sent to the lab. We are located in Oregon, and so we were able to go either pick up the samples in person or they were delivered to the lab, but all others were delivered via FedEx. This won't change. Oh, cool. All right. So we had 18 AIs. 13 of these are insecticides, 5 are miticides. You can see the ones with the asterisks are the ones that aren't currently registered. And in 2020, we did almost all of these. In 2021, we identified tebuconazide, which is the active ingredient, and confirm that we hadn't previously included. So we included that for the next 2 years. And then here we've got 10 different products, 10 different fungicide products that represents 13 AIs. And again, there were 2 that we added for 2021 and 2022 that weren't in the 2020 data set, the Maravon and Sevia. And again, there is the Maravon, which is not currently registered. Just a little bit about our laboratory. My husband and I own and operate the lab. We've been in business for about 15 years now. We do everything from MRL, global gap type stuff, but we really love research and we've done a whole bunch of projects. And we really enjoy these MRL decline projects. So the samples were received at the lab in good condition. We homogenized them and stored them frozen until we performed an extraction using the Catcher's 15662 methodology. And we followed that up with a dispersive solid phase extraction cleanup. All samples were analyzed by liquid chromatography with mass spectrometry and GCMS-MS, which is gas chromatography with dual MS. The LOQs, limit of quantitations, we set those as low as possible so that we could mirror the MRLs. And a lot of markets were looking to get to 0.01. And so that was our target LOQ for most of these analytes. And so I mentioned before that there were 4 replicates for each day after treatment. So we calculated each of those individually, and then we would average those. And that became the data that you will see that's graphed as a decline curve over time with some confidence intervals, 95%. We'll also point out that on the x-axis, there's the pre-harvest interval indicated, and the US tolerance, which will be indicated with an arrow and an MRL, is on the y-axis. You'll also see a table of relevant MRLs. And one thing to note is that all values are in parts per million. The MRLs you'll see were all from the Food Chain ID website listed there, and those are current as of the 22nd of this month. And these are the list of the countries with an example of the MRL table that you'll see for each of the analytes. And just to point out, this information can be used for any country, not just the ones that we have listed. So the ultimate guide of this project is to develop these guidance charts, kind of a stoplight. And using this information, the decline information that we've generated along with MRLs for each individual country, it's basically a risk assessment of how risky is it to go into a particular market. So if it's red, that indicates that we detected a bunch of residues above an MRL. And so it's high risk to go into that market, and you probably shouldn't use that product. And then there's a scenario where you should be cautious. That would be the yellow color. And then green means it's likely safe. Again, there are no guarantees, but it's likely safe to enter a market. So that's the ultimate guide of this project and what we will be generating at the end of the year. And with that, we're going to dive into the data. Alan, take it away.
So one of the things I want to point out is this work was funded by a significant grant from the U.S. High Bush Blueberry Council that in turn received this from a U.S. Technical Assistance to Specialty Crop grant. And what you do is we apply these pesticides and then we look at the residue levels at 1, 3. I lost my red dot. I know, but I'm looking for I lost my red dot, man. We do these samples at 1, 3, 5, 7, 14, 21 days. In one of these locations for 1 year, we took it out to 28 days. You can see to the far right. We did this in all 5 states over a 3-year period. And this is a cell acetaminoprid. You can see this is the US MRL. And so this is where the US MRL, this is the PHI at 1 day for a cell on blueberries. And so at US it's 1.6. If you look at Korea, it's 0.5. And so one might say that, well, I don't want to use a cell on blueberries because our MRL is 1.6, but theirs is 0.5. But what we realize is by day 3, you can use a cell 3 days before and know that you can get into Korea. Also, we know that you're pretty safe by day 3, certainly by day 4, that you can go into Taiwan. So anytime you see a red MRL, that is an MRL that with the knowledge we had before this trial, we couldn't have used that product on fruit going to that country. But with this data, we know that we can. So every time you see a red, that is a win for us. And so this is a sale. This will allow us to use a sale for something going to Korea or Taiwan. This is a product called Talus bupropion. You see there's no MRLs here, which means it's not registered yet. But when it is registered, we know that this is one that does not break down very much over time. We will need to see what these MRLs are before we know if we have any wins. But when we get registered, and it's just going to be registered within a year. This is Altachlor, chlorantraniliprole. There are 5 countries, Korea, Philippines, Singapore, Taiwan, and Vietnam, that we know we can get into. It's one that really doesn't decline over time. It has a long residue, and we know from this is a mistake. We forgot to sample out here, but this is a mistake into success. That's a very useful bit of information here. And so we got 5 wins on this one. This is a place where we don't have any wins because the MRLs are relatively harmonized except for EU, and we will not get below 0.01 with this one. Perhaps when Taiwan and Vietnam set their MRLs, it might be of use there. This is diazon. Diazon is an example of a product that breaks down very quickly, and most of these products have 0.5, except for those, well, except for 4 of them. So this is diazon. You know, you wait 10 days, you can probably go in about anywhere with diazon. This is Belief, not yet registered. When it is, we'll see what happens. But again, another product that doesn't break down over time. This is Savanto, just registered, a great aphicide for for aphids. This is Ryman, again, another product that doesn't break down over time. This is NAC, pyropoxyphene. This is one that we added along the way. We don't have a full set of data on it. This is Movento. This will help us with Philippines, Singapore, and Vietnam. This is Transform, sulfoxaflor, newly registered. Just need to check the time. Keep an eye on the time. Oh, we're doing great. Tebuphenoxide or Confirm, another product that we picked up along the way. This is one that just does not break down over time. This is Bexar, tolfenpyrad, newly registered product, slow breakdown over time. We don't have a good set of MRLs. These MRLs eventually will get set, and it is very likely that some of them may not be 7, and we'll be able to use this data you'd be able to allow these products on these crops. That's insecticides going to miticides. Here's Agromec, registered on raspberries, not yet registered on blueberries, but it's about to be registered on blueberries. When it does, we'll see what the MRLs are. Canamite just registered on blueberries. It's a miticide. We don't have a good set of MRLs. This may keep us out of, we may not be able to use this product for a while, but eventually these are going to be set. And I guarantee you that we're going to be able to we will be able to use this product once MRLs are set. This is Acromite, not yet registered on blueberries. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about blueberry insecticides, blueberry miticides. I'm going to talk more about Acromite. Nothing personal, but don't get excited about this. I see the Canadians are taking pictures of this. I'll give you these slides. Or better yet, you're going to be able to take them off the USHBC website, because we're going to mend fences. This is going to be my peace offering to British Columbia, part of it. Here's Magister, just got registered on blueberries. We don't have a good set of MRLs. But we'll see. This is something that's got a 7-day PHI. It's got kind of a slow decline on this. When these MRLs get set, we'll see if we need to use this information. Fujimite just got registered on blueberries. This will allow us to go into EU, Korea, Taiwan, and I suspect when these get set, they will be set lower than 3, but we'll be able to go in because all these residues are pretty low. So this is win-win-win, and we have victories yet to come. Fungicides. This is azoxystrobin, one part of Quadris top, or just Abound. we can go into Canada with this data. Difenconazole, that's the other part of Quadras Top, also on Inspire. We can go, the residues on this is fairly low. All of them are below our MRL. So that's good when they're Captan. No help on Captan. Captan residues don't decline. The residues are fairly high. It's at a high use rate. Canada, the troublemakers set it at 5. We can't solve all of the problems with MRLs. This is not going to help us get around the 5 parts per million MRL in Canada. This is flupiram, part of Luna Tranquility. Here's Korea and a win for Taiwan. The residues are all really much lower than you would expect if the US is at 7. Pyrimethanil is the other portion of Luna Tranquility. This will allow us to go into Japan and Taiwan. I suspect it could help us in Vietnam if it's low. If you look at what all these are fairly high numbers, but all these residues are well below what the MRLs are. Here's Maravon, and this is one of the details I didn't tell you. I made a mistake on this. I believe in raspberries, this is going to be called Circadus. I may have gotten the wrong brand name on this one. But again, this is one of those ones that the residues don't decline. And if anybody here is kind of paying attention, you're going to say, why do residues go up over time? A residue can't go up over time while it's on the plant. It can only maintain or go down. What I want to point out is there's air bar. You see these air bars here. This air bar is associated with this line, and the air bar around this point overlaps with the air bar around this. The number that this point represents and the number that this point represents statistically are not significantly different. And these numbers are no different from each other. And that is a little bit of an artifact of the variability of the data. So these data, despite their up and down appearance, are really essentially flat. Remember how we weren't going to go into the technical details? I kind of slipped. This is Kinja. Kinja is isophetamide. Look at this. When. We have 5. They've got 4s here. These are quite likely going to be wins when we get these. All of these residues are lower than what the MRLs are. It's like, behold the power of the residue decline curve. Sevia, I talked about this earlier in the disease talk. This has just got registered on blueberries. and as is typical, things that just get registered, they get registered in the United States. They establish an MRL here, maybe a few other key countries, and then they go every place else and start doing MRLs later. And so we don't know what these MRLs will be. There's a hint that this is 5, 5, and 5, but some of these get set lower. We'll see what happens. I just want to point out that these are 5, but all these numbers are below 1.2. If these are set at 4 or 3 or 2, we're in like Flynn. Quash metconazole. Again, this is one that the residues are pretty flat. We don't have Philippines. And this is one I obviously forgot to do. This is a win. These all should be red here. So this, I must have skipped this one. Here's Fontellus. We can go into Japan. That's an important one going into Japan. The EU, that's a default. That eventually will come to something else. Taiwan and Vietnam haven't been set. We may get ones there. Proline, great story. Prolevo, nothing to report on here. We'll see what Taiwan and Vietnam will be. Turn it back over to Camille. I'm just going to say, we have a really, really good data set. If you want to see some questionable data sets, come to my pest management talks. They're not nearly as clean and nice as this data set. It's probably because of the analytical chemist, but I would tell you, this is a big, this is going to be a big success story. This is probably one of the most impactful research projects that I'm doing this year.
And I'll say it's a collaboration between the field and the lab side. We had some great researchers out there in the field making the applications, taking the samples and sending it to us. So thank you for the nod to the lab, but it's a team effort. And so here we have a summary of the pesticides that we know degrade quickly. Diazinon, again, organophosphate. We see that with other organophosphates like malathion. They just drop like a rock. They break down in the presence of UV light. And then abamectin, acetoconazole, and prothioconazole also break down pretty quickly. Here's the list of the pesticides that we observed that degrade very slowly. And depending on the market you're going into, that could be a concern. So we've got the bupropion, flupyradipiridone, novaluron, tebuphenoxide, tolpenpyrad. I just like to show off that I can pronounce these pesticide names. Azoxystrobin, the two actives in Luna Tranquility, Maravon, and then Kinja. And again, noting that there are a couple here that aren't registered yet. So looking at the ease of export, there are some pesticides that are more favorable. They've got a lot of MRLs established. And so you can see those listed. There's also some pesticides that don't have MRLs established. Maybe they're the newer products like Alan was mentioning, but those might be more difficult to get into. And so we know that Japan and Canada are good trading partners. A lot of MRLs established, a lot of harmonized MRLs. So that means that they're the same as the US. So if you're applying to the label, then, and the label's the law, then your residues should be, within the US tolerance. And if the country that you're exporting to is harmonized, then that's a good thing. And one thing to note is that Australia and Korea have set a ton of MRLs. In fact, in this past year, Australia had a harmonization event, and they established 8 new MRLs for blueberries alone. I mean, we're talking MRLs that were like 0.01 or 0 and are now harmonized with the US. So that's fantastic. And then Korea, likewise, they're constantly revising their list. I think they had 6 in this past year that they have revised. And also good news, Philippines and Singapore have defaulted to Codex. So whereas they had no tolerance policies before, now they have at least Codex MRLs. And then we know that the EU, Taiwan, and Vietnam can be challenging markets because they don't have MRLs established for a lot of active ingredients. And so again, this is the ultimate goal of this project, that we're going to have a final report done by the end of this year. And it's going to be posted on the US HBC website. We're going to have not only the traffic light active ingredient chart for all of the 31 ingredients in this project, which will be available to everyone, but we're going to add previous work. We've done some other projects. We had, I believe, 13 SWD insecticides that we had done work on previously. We've got about 8 or so fungicides. There's a bigger data set. And so we're going to merge everything to be released together and available to everyone. And with that, I just want to say thank you so much. This work was possible from a grant that we got from the USDA task through the US HBC. So big help from them. And then Bryant Christie, all these folks have served a big role in this project. And one other thing I'd like to say is that behind the scenes, the US High Bush Council, IR4, Bryant Christie, the Oregon Blueberry Commission, Washington Blueberry Commission, all these folks work together to constantly try to improve MRL landscape for blueberries. A lot of work goes on behind the scenes. And so I know Alan's done a lot of this work with the berry team. And so, yeah, would you like to add anything to close, Alan?
All right, thank you very much, Camille. One comment I want to make was that of the other products we're going to add besides, in addition to these 31, there's about 24 of those. That's work that Camille and I did. It was funded by the Washington Blueberry Commission, Washington Commission on Pesticide Registration. There's some Washington and Oregon data in it. The 31 we did had 4 states and 5 locations: Western Washington, right here in Whatcom County, and Eastern Washington, Franklin County, and then Oregon, California, and Michigan. The other 2 don't have as complete a data set. But one thing we noticed, if you were to go back and look at these lines, you'll see regardless of the location, well, I'll just tell you so I don't have to figure this out, they act similarly. You know, we did Eastern Washington and Western Washington because we thought there might be differences on the dry side or the wet side. Will there be a difference between here in California or here in Michigan? But these products seem to act pretty uniformly. In fact, you'll see some goofy stuff like this. This outlier is in Michigan. Okay, so that's Michigan. This happens to be Michigan. If you go to this one, this is Western Washington. That was the outlier. You look at this one here. This is Western Washington. It's an outlier. Let's come with another one. It's an outlier. This one here is Eastern Washington. That's one of mine. So what the difference is, the variability we have is actually not from site to site. It's probably something that the applicator did. That's why we did it in different locations over different years. So where the point of this is, you can probably use the data that's generated in Washington, Oregon in other locations. I'm gonna stop there and take any questions, any comments. Yes, we're gonna wait till you get a microphone. Someone is racing to you, in this case, skipping to you. It's not on, you just got to yell. We always use the maximum label rate. We use a maximum label rate. So it's the highest labeled rate in all cases. If you want to ask where, okay, so I think if you use a middle rate or a lower rate, it'll even be below these. If you want to know where we're vulnerable to criticism is this. We tank mixed several of these products together. And so some of these products have a surfactant with them, with the product. And so if we're vulnerable for any type of criticism, we tank mix several of these products together, and we don't know if that changed their behavior. Also, we did not include a surfactant with them because this is all without a surfactant. So that has a possibility, but it'd be too complicated to do every one of these separately and have all the permutations of different surfactants. So maximum rate, tank mix, not all of them together. We had several treatments, but there were several products, no surfactant, high labeled rate. Another question? Yes. Okay. Okay, so we have no plans to do herbicides. And the reason that we have no plans to do herbicides is this. We don't apply herbicides to the foliage, generally to the fruit. I know it does sometimes happen, but it just, there's a whole nother trial where they found casseron or diclobenyl, say diclobenyl in blueberry fruit, which was very alarming. I can't remember the details. We believe it's related to the formulation. I can't remember if it was the liquid or the dry. Do you remember? when they used the granular formulation of castor, they found some residues associated with it. So we went and did a survey of field applications of several different herbicides, several different active ingredients, and we did granular and liquid castor, and we found no residues anywhere of anything except granular castor in a couple of locations. I don't want to say that there would never be a herbicide residue over an MRL. We did do some research on this. It indicated that that's not an issue. I think if you think about the science, the chemistry, our history of violating MRLs, it's almost always associated, almost always overwhelmingly associated with fungicides, insecticides. And after talking to a lot of people planning this trial, realizing we had a finite amount of slots, everybody put the priorities on insecticides and fungicides. These products were selected by a larger group of us of the highest priority. Now, 3 years into this, we found that, for example, we thought that they were going after Maravon Prime. They went with Maravon. I can't remember. We picked the wrong formulation because the company changed its mind on which formulation. So we had to pull one product out. We also now know there's a half a dozen or more products that are coming that we didn't know when we're doing this trial. We found out some were coming along the way, and so we added them, but we actually could do this whole trial again. It'd be a much smaller scale. It's a never-ending, MRLs are a never-ending project. Yes, in the back. You're gonna have to just belt it out. All those samples were Washington, was Whatcom and Skagit.
That's what I put on. Pre-bloom?
It was early. Yeah, February or March, early. Yes. It was okay. I did the work. I don't remember all of the results, but do you shy away from using granular castor? Yeah. But if you want to know more about it, find me when I have my laptop, because that's my brain on this. They've not only found residues quite a while later, but above the MRLs. Granular, but only in granular. Any other questions? Any other pesticide question? How are we doing on time, Chris? What's that?
We are good on time.
What's that?
We're good.
Good meaning stop talking, or good meaning ask questions? Any more questions? Any more pesticide questions? Ask me a pesticide question. Stump me. Okay, I'm going to yield my time to the next speaker.